Hello, gentlemen. How are you today?
Hi,
Good,
Bonnie.
Bonnie. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Good to see you both. What a beautiful film. Matt, I have to ask you, no stranger to Leonard Cohen and his wonderful lyrics, music, everything that he gave us. You gave us a film a few years ago that was about his music. But what was the inspiration for this one?
It really sprang out of the narrative and the things we wanted to talk about, which essentially was the gap between fantasy and reality, or
Yeah.
between desire and reality. And I think that's something that Cohen, in a very meaningful but also humorous way, either struggled with or labored with or mined for his entire career. So it just sort of seemed natural. And then also coming from Montreal,
Mhm.
I have that sort of hometown affiliation that's been with me ever since I was a kid. So those are really the reasons, like everything springs out of the story from
Yeah.
my
It's
perspective.
a great story. And
Oh, thank you.
Gabriel, for you, to play a guy like Samuel, what a first of all, what a juicy role, I have to say. But second of all, to be able to go back to Ireland to shoot, I would have thought, no brainer, right?
Yeah, I have to say, that transition from Samuel's reality into the world of fantasy
Yeah.
was something that I thought in the script was just done seamlessly, beautifully. It could have been a moment where the audience just disengaged and said, "What is this about? Why is he suddenly in Ireland driving a car?" But on one level, which of us would not like to return to address the demons of the past, the mistakes of the past?
Yeah.
And secondly, um, the fantasy that he concocts for himself, it's a fantasy of pure love.
Yeah.
It's romantic, and it's also about him becoming the best man that he can be. Uh, Whereas we've seen up to now the fragile kind of um, imperfect man that he is. The second part of the movie, in his fantasy, reveals him to be this pure character, and I found that very moving, I have to say. And the last scene in the film, without giving anything away from people who haven't seen it,
Mhm.
is it's a shock, but I think that it's very moving and very hopeful in
Yes.
its ending. It's a very hopeful film for something that looks like it could be headed towards a kind of a gloomy conclusion. It actually ends very hopefully. And what helps the film, I think, is the humor that Matt sprinkles throughout it, because that allows you to take in everything else, because you're never that far from a bit of a laugh.
Oh, for sure. Matt, was Gabriel always your number one choice? Because I couldn't think of anybody else who could play this role, to be honest with you.
Matt, you better be careful now. I'm watching here from Maine. I see you.
From the moment pen hit paper. I think more than anything, once Gabriel came on, we had lunch together, which I was late for, tragically. I had the wrong time. So I remember Corey phoning me, and his message was, "Please tell me you're sitting down with Gabriel." I was running through Soho, sweating anyhow. He was as gracious as ever, and
Yeah.
we had a lovely lunch and talked about the character, and it was so obvious that he understood at least as much or more than I did about the person on the page.
Mhm.
And the film really shaped around him after that point.
Yeah. Gabriel, I have to ask you, after doing a role like this, if you could go back and talk to your dad, what would you ask him or say to him that maybe you never had a chance to say?
Well, I think that's a very profound question. Um, these things that they sometimes say to you, if you had a dinner and you could invite anybody, who would you invite?
Yes.
And people say, oh, Abraham Lincoln and Einstein and Steve Martin, they come up with these things. I've always thought the answer to that is my father, my mother, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, so that I could sit around and just listen to them. Because I listened to my father with one ear all my life, but I never truly heard him until he was gone.
Right. Isn't that true for all of us, I think?
Yes.
Matt, what about you? You know, like if you could go back and talk to a parent or, you know, it's such a profound film and it's so beautifully done, but it raises a lot of questions.
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing about families is that you never run at, that mind is never exhausted because it's the only mind we know.
Yeah.
And there is no other story in a kind of sense because it's Genesis every single time. Everyone has their own personal Genesis. And it's the people who created you and literally made you and then sort of made you as you grow with them. And I never get tired of going back to that, whether it's a brother, a mother, a father. It seems like the only thing to write about or to sort of engage with, and at least for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a way of not answering your question, but
no, it's okay. Listen, any movie that takes me to Ireland, my son is studying right now at UCD veterinary medicine, and I have fallen in love with that country. So I can't wait till this pandemic to be over so I can get my ass back to Ireland. But thank you to the two of you. Gabriel, you've always been one of my most favorite actors in the entire planet. So thank you so much for this, guys.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Happy holidays to both of you, and keep well, keep safe.
Thanks so much, Bonnie.
UCD is my alma mater. You
No
know?
kidding.
I went there for 4 years. Yeah.
It's beautiful. I'm so my son has one more year, so I hope to get back there next year. So.
It's a great university.
It is.
This is what so few people know about Gabriel. Don't know about Gabriel. He's also a veterinarian. He's a man of many.
You could open a clinic with my son. Anyway, I got to go. I'm going to get in big trouble. Nice to see you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye now.